Hi everyone, welcome to our 5th video in the Navigating Early Childhood series, and this topic is one that I'm very passionate about, and that is parent well-being. I want this video to be just a sort of time for you to reflect on whether you are prioritizing yourself and your health, and hopefully you'll walk away with some tips to do that better if maybe that's something that you can implement into your life. If this is the first video you're watching, hi, my name is Lydia, and I am an intern at the Down Syndrome Association of Houston, and also a student in the Robbins College of Health and Human Sciences Doctor of Occupational Therapy program at Baylor University. And let's go ahead and jump into this video. Let's start off by defining well-being, which I'll have a definition on the next slide. But for this slide, I just wanted to put a few different pictures of what could represent well-being to different people. For some people, well-being includes making sure that they're exercising every day and that they're super on top of that, and that makes them feel healthy. For some people, it's things like gardening or other leisure activities, hanging out with friends, journaling. Those things really fill them up and make them feel like their best selves. Well-being also includes mental health and also your physical health. Just how are you physically? Are you getting taken care of, and are your needs being met? So as you've heard me mention week after week, I'm an occupational therapy student, and I mention that here to say that that's going to affect how we look at well-being. It is the lens that we're going to look at well-being through, if you will. So let me kind of backtrack and explain that occupational therapists are concerned with people's ability to engage in their everyday activities, or what we call occupations. Occupations are meaningful to people, and it includes all the things in life that you want and need to do. So that's going to be the lens through which we're looking at well-being. It's an emphasis on doing. What are we doing to promote our well-being within our own lives? What occupations are you engaging in? Occupational therapists also really look at habits and routines, and our habits and routines affect the occupations or activities that we engage in, and thus our habits and routines affect our health. So that might be a starting place for making changes. From the American Occupational Therapy Association, we have that well-being encompasses the total universe of human life domains, including physical, mental, and social aspects, which we'll look at individually. These make up what can be called a good life. Occupational therapy practice emphasizes the importance of occupations, those activities that you engage in healthful, productive, and satisfying living. So that definition that we looked at earlier included physical, social, and mental aspects of well-being, which we'll look at all individually. I am going to present some results of research, and it's not to alarm you, but simply to bring awareness to the fact that this is a real need, and it might be a real problem if more people aren't addressing it. Even as I was looking for resources to include at the end of this, there really wasn't much out there that I found specifically for parents of children with Down syndrome, or just children with special needs in general. So it is something that I want to simply bring awareness to and encourage you to prioritize. Research has shown that parenting a child with special needs has the potential to negatively affect physical health outcomes for parents. In fact, in one study, these parents reported twice as many limitations in completing their everyday activities than parents raising typically developing children. These negative physical consequences can even be long-term, affecting people for 10 plus years. Now, this is really problematic because if the health of the parent declines, obviously the ability to care for their child also declines, and just overall the quality of life for the family is not going to be good. It also affects our capacity as a society to support these individuals outside of the long-term care system. We see so many individuals that are capable of living in the community, and that is great, and we want to keep that up. But if our parents are suffering, then it impacts our ability to do that successfully. Let's talk about mental well-being. As I was looking through the research on this topic, what kept coming up a lot is that parents were experiencing negative emotions early on in their child's life, especially like right after birth and into that first couple of years of their child's life. They reported feeling things like anxiety, worry about the future, just being scared to raise a child with special needs, or feeling guilty for maybe not being as excited as they think they should be, just because they're coming to terms with their child's diagnosis. And I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate to those feelings. Now, those negative feelings are totally normal and expected and justified, but if nothing is done to help alleviate them, they can directly affect how the parent is able to support their child. Just like we talked about on the last slide, if a parent is not at their physical best, then it's going to affect how they care for their child. And the same can be said about mental health. We also know that parents to children with special needs are often exposed to more stressors than other parents are. There's just an extra layer of things that you have to worry about. Maybe their independence in the future, or just worrying about getting them the services that they need, or advocating for them, or maybe the financial hardship that might come up as a result of more care that is needed for them medically. Now, a study by Marquise and other researchers also found that women often report feeling strain related to their role as caregiver, but also other studies showed that men and women both experience this kind of caregiver burden equally. We also know that higher levels of self-perceived caregiving ability are associated with lower stress. That means that the more that parents feel empowered and the more that they feel like, I can really do this, I have the tools that I need, and I feel confident in my abilities, those parents are likely to experience less stress in general. Finally, let's talk about social well-being. I think this is something that is super easy to neglect, especially as you have a family and you're married and it kind of starts to just take over your life. Family life does. But I think it's also super important to just know that you have support outside of your family, even if it's extended family, but just that you have support outside of your nuclear family unit. We know that poor social support is associated with feelings of parental stress. So even just having that support can help alleviate your stress. Having support from friends and family can improve feelings of stress and depression and even self-reported physical health. That means that this research showed that parents reported even physically feeling better just when they knew that they had that support that they need. Another source of support that's really important is support from your spouse. That has been shown to also improve feelings of stress. So hopefully hearing the results of some of that research helped you kind of start self-reflecting, or maybe something that I said that I presented from the research really resonated with you. And I think that's the first place to start when it comes to enhancing your well-being. Examine each area, mental, physical, and social, and think about which one maybe needs a little bit more attention. Examine your current habits and routines. Just like we talked about at the very beginning of this video, your habits and routines are extremely important to your health. What are you currently doing that helps your well-being, and what maybe hurts it, and what needs to change? I'm currently reading a book that I recommend so far. I haven't finished it yet, but it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's extremely popular, so maybe I'm just late to the game and y'all have already read it. But it talks about labeling your habits as positive, negative, or neutral, and that really stuck out to me because it's not something that I would have naturally thought to do. But he kind of talked about, if you're reflecting on your morning routine, write down each step of it. You wake up, you check your phone, you drink coffee, and assign a label to each part of it. And that can kind of help raise your self-awareness and just see visually that, okay, I'm doing a lot of things that are really helping me, or I'm doing maybe some things that are really hurting me in the long term. How can you change those things? Find practical strategies that work for you. We'll talk about some of them, but there's also lots of stuff online for just helpful tips and tricks for improving your everyday life. Something else that I took away from Atomic Habits is an emphasis on changing your environment. How can you change your environment to make your desired habits more attractive and accessible? Something that comes to mind for me is that I sleep with my phone like on my nightstand right next to me, and I don't think that's the best for maybe encouraging me to not check it right away in the morning or to not stay up on it at night. So it never occurred to me really to pay attention to how you're kind of setting yourself up for failure or success when it comes to your ideal behavior. So that's just something to think about too. How can you change your environment to just make it easier for yourself to do the things that you want to do? Let's talk about making physical changes. Through these slides, I really just want to encourage you again to self-reflect and to just think about what we can do to prevent maybe some of what we saw in the research, those negative outcomes. We want to prevent that as much as we can. And I want to encourage you to just prioritize your well-being in all areas of life so that, again, you can do the best for yourself and for your child as well. So we can start off, I think, by examining our schedules a lot of time, just making sure that we're making time to move our body. I know that's hard for all of us. We get so busy, but it is really something that is important. And even if it's just getting outside with your child and playing with them, that will make a difference as well. Are you getting enough sleep, or at least trying to? I know it can be hard for parents. Again, y'all have such full and busy lives, but prioritizing sleep and setting up your environment, again, for the most sleep you can get is going to be really good in the long term. And then also, are you making enough time away from your screens? Maybe that's more for the younger people out there that struggle more with this. I know like my generation definitely struggles more with taking time away from your screens, but again, that's something that is just going to help your overall mental and physical health as well. Schedule any doctor's appointments maybe that you've been meaning to schedule and just that have kind of been getting put off for whatever reason. Make sure that you're prioritizing your physical health in that way. And then also maybe ask a friend or family member to watch your child while you go on a walk alone or with your partner. It's just a good break from always being connected at the hip with your child, as maybe some of y'all. I know my mom always talks about that, especially with my sister who has Down syndrome. She just feels like she's her shadow sometimes. And so take that time to just kind of break away for a little bit and enhance your physical well-being that way. Now let's talk about making mental changes, which in my opinion can actually be a little more difficult to implement than making physical or social changes, just because they are a little bit more abstract and require being really intentional. But I also want to preface this by saying that these are just kind of general tips that are supported by research, but if you feel like you're dealing with maybe something more serious or a symptom of a mental health diagnosis, please seek the advice of a medical professional. Again, these are just kind of general tips to manage everyday stress and things like that. So tip number 1 is to look for ways to gain more control over your life. This is basically any little thing that kind of helps you feel like you have your life more together. This could be like using a planner, switching up your morning routine, or something that's really important for me is making my bed every day, just little things like that. And we know from research that a sense of control is important for minimizing stress and preserving mental health outcomes. You can also try tackling stress through different strategies like problem-focused coping and reframing. These are terms that stem from the world of psychology, and you can find lots of articles on them, I'm sure. But problem-focused coping is basically where instead of just stressing about an issue, you kind of look at what you can actually do, what action steps you can take to address the problem head-on and from its root. You can also try reframing, which is a strategy to just kind of change your outlook and to look at your problem from an outsider perspective and think about what opportunities it might be giving you. Think about how maybe there are some positive things that are kind of embedded in your situation, even though the situation itself is not ideal. Basically, you want to notice and change negative thinking patterns. There are also different little things you could do to just kind of encourage optimism within yourself. One of those that I've tried before and that I should probably get back to doing, but I used to write down 3 things that I was grateful for every morning. And it wasn't necessarily life-changing for me, but it did kind of force me to think about what I was grateful for and to think about what is good in life over bad. And so it just kind of can help frame your mindset for the day. Something that we mentioned earlier was that parents that feel more self-confidence as a parent and in their abilities, they often have less stress than other parents who do not feel confident. So with that said, figure out what helps build your self-confidence as a parent and do more of it. This might be, especially for parents of children with Down syndrome, it could be educating people, educating your friends and family on Down syndrome. It could be taking your kids out in public, all of them, and taking that on. And whatever helps you feel like, I've got this, I can do this, I can raise this kid, it'll be fine, I am equipped, do more of that. Finally, we're going to talk about making social changes. And to do this, I think first, again, reflection. Reflect on your current social relationships. Do you feel supported and encouraged by them? And if the answer is no, then I would encourage the first step to be just talking to that person that you maybe don't feel as much support from as you would like to. Whether maybe it's a parent or a sibling, maybe someone that you kind of expect to have your back and maybe they don't as much as you would like. Have that conversation with them, or maybe a spouse, and tell them your needs, tell them how they could better support you. I also want you to consider who you can count on to watch your children if you feel like you need a moment for yourself. Think about those friends or family and reach out. Maybe if you haven't taken advantage of that, maybe ask if they would be willing to do that. And that's a good way to kind of strengthen your support that you have in your social circle. Also, if you feel like I don't have those people, I need to find those people, think about where you can pursue that support that you need. Is it from people at your church, in your family? Again, just figuring that out. Also, there are tons of local organizations where you can find support. Like I know the Down Syndrome Association of Houston, for example, has community groups where parents can get together. And so if you maybe feel like you need support specifically from a parent with a child with Down syndrome, there's also places you could do that too. And that might be something important to get involved in. And again, perceived control and social support can improve one's ability to adapt to challenging circumstances. So we see once again how these little changes and things like social support can make a difference in your health. So this slide is just to kind of check in with yourself. And again, I hope you've been kind of getting the theme here of just self-reflection and figuring out where you could make some more changes to better preserve your health and well-being as a parent. But I have some questions here that you might just want to ask yourself, and that can kind of help you figure out what your first steps might be. Number one is, am I making time for fun? I know as we get older, we kind of neglect fun, and it's kind of discouraged, or you kind of feel pressured to be super into your work, or instead of doing something fun, doing something productive. And while that definitely has its time and place, you still always need to make time for something fun in life. So think about an activity maybe that you haven't done in a while and maybe make some time to do that. Another question to ask yourself is, am I often fully present in the moments that I spend with my family? Making that actual time to spend with your family is important, yes, but also making sure that you're fully present in that time that you're spending with them. Trying to keep stressful thoughts at bay as much as possible during that time, which I know can be definitely easier said than done. A strategy that works for me is I always have Post-it notes like all over my room, all over my desk, and I will grab a Post-it note if I can't stop thinking about something that's stressing me out, and I will like write down like either what it is or what I need to do, like make sure that you do this, whatever, and I will write it down, and kind of that's my way of unloading it, and I'm not going to think about it right now because I wrote it down. So maybe that will help you if you're similar. Another question is, am I feeling well rested lately? Which, as an OT student, sleep is an occupation. That is something that is very meaningful to a lot of people, including myself. It's probably my favorite occupation. And so if you're one of those people that needs 8 hours of sleep like I do, try your best to get it. I know y'all are parents again. Some of y'all are so busy. So again, try your best when it comes to that. Next is kind of reflecting on how you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself. Is what I tell myself true, and does it get me what I want and need? And that's kind of a more deep question, and one that really only you can answer, but just the way that you talk to yourself, is it positive? Is it negative? Are you always talking about, oh, I'm such a bad parent, like I feel like I'm not doing enough? Or are you taking time to say, no, you know what, I'm confident in myself as a parent, I'm doing good things for my children? Just changing the way that you talk to yourself if you feel like you tend to dwell on the negative. And then also something that I know I struggle with, but boundaries, especially boundaries related to time. Are you respecting those boundaries that you have for yourself? Are you overexerting yourself? Are you saying yes to too many things? Maybe reassess that, because boundaries are really healthy and you want to protect your time and energy as much as possible. Okay, as always, here are some resources listed for you guys. First and foremost, DSAH has community groups, which I believe I mentioned earlier in this presentation, but if you're not part of one and you're looking for that social support and you're looking to meet parents of a child with Down syndrome, definitely look into joining the one that is most local to you. If you go to that Facebook link, they will have all the ones that they have, and they're all over the Houston area. So definitely recommend joining one. I also wanted to remind you guys that there are educational workshops that DSAH hosts every now and then, and so keep your eye out for those, because that is something that I think can be really helpful for you guys. There's also a Down Syndrome Association UK parent wellbeing booklet that I came across when I was looking for resources, and I think it's a really well done and it's a good resource. And so I think it's also available for download, so I recommend taking a look at that. There's also a webinar that I have listed here by Consolidated Planning Group. I know that I've mentioned them before, and I'm sure you all know who they are because they have put on webinars with DSAH before, and they have a really great YouTube channel where they're kind enough to upload all of those webinars onto there. So this one is specifically for self-care for parents. I attended it, and I highly recommend it. It's about an hour in length, but I think it's really worth your time. And then the book that I was talking about earlier is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I definitely recommend it, especially if you're looking to make some changes in your life. And then finally, I just wanted to add a few more wellness apps that I know of. I know there are a ton out there that can help you get started with things like that. Here are the references that I used for putting together this presentation, and should you have any questions, as always, feel free to email me at lrodriguez@dsah.org. And I just want to thank you guys so much for watching. There's only one more video after this, so catch up on all the videos maybe that you have missed. But I look forward to seeing you guys, and once again, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for your time.